I'd always imagined that when terror struck our suburban Atlanta home, it would come from beyond our weathered front door in the dead of night. Instead, it emerged from the lips of the person I cherished most, as he sat on our beloved IKEA sofa, a piece of furniture we'd chosen together in happier times. Jack, my husband, my partner, and the devoted father to our precious Lily. The living room was bathed in the soft, unsteady light of our table lamp, casting eerie patterns across the walls. Above us, Lily's innocent laughter floated down as she played with her dolls, unaware of the devastating conversation unfolding beneath her feet. Jack sat rigidly, his gaze fixed anywhere but on me. He shifted uncomfortably before delivering the blow. "Emily, I want a divorce. I'm seeing someone else." His words came out mechanical and detached, as if he were discussing tomorrow's forecast rather than demolishing our 12-year marriage. My lungs seized, and I felt the air vanish from my body. I waited, desperately hoping he'd crack a smile and reveal it was all an elaborate, cruel joke. But there was no punchline. Instead, he pushed a collection of papers across our coffee table, his name already permanently etched at the bottom. Divorce papers. Final and cold. Words failed me initially. My thoughts spiraled through a maze of memories, searching for signs. Were those endless office nights really what he claimed? Why had our good-night kisses become extinct? Had she been lurking in the shadows all this time, hidden behind his countless explanations? My fingers gripped the chair's arm until my knuckles whitened. Another burst of Lily's laughter pierced the tension, and suddenly my mind crystallized with clarity. I refused to let this unfold like some melodramatic television scene. Not now. Hey, we'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Share your location in the comments, whether you're in New York, LA, or somewhere across the world. And if you're invested in this story, don't forget to hit subscribe. You won't regret staying for what's next. I moved closer, forcing him to meet my gaze. He probably expected me to collapse, to sign away everything without resistance. But I wasn't about to surrender our family, our daughter's stability, without putting up a fight. "Lily," I called upstairs, maintaining composure despite my internal turmoil. "Sweetie, please go to your room for a while. Mommy and Daddy need to talk." Her tiny feet scampered away, leaving behind a deafening quiet. Jack arched an eyebrow expectantly. I drew a deep breath, my heartbeat thundering in my ears like a freight train. "You want a divorce?" "Fine," I declared, my voice sharp as broken glass. "But I have two conditions." His mouth fell open slightly, surprise flickering across his features. This response wasn't what he'd anticipated. Truth be told, it wasn't what I'd expected either. But sitting there, facing the man who'd once sworn eternal devotion, an idea began crystallizing. Risky, desperate, perhaps even insane. I couldn't tell if it would mend us or break me completely, but I was ready to find out. He reclined, folding his arms across his chest. "Conditions? What game are you playing, Emily?" His voice dripped with skepticism, nearly mockery, but I caught the uncertainty dancing in his eyes. "Perfect. Let him worry." I rose and walked to the window, where darkness pressed against the panes like a silent observer to our crumbling marriage. Turning to face him, my elongated shadow stretched across the carpeted floor. "You'll find out," I murmured, barely above a whisper. "And I guarantee you won't like it." The atmosphere in our living room felt dense, as if the very air was holding its breath alongside me. Jack remained seated, arms still crossed, his hazel eyes narrowing to slits as he awaited my explanation. The divorce papers rested on our coffee table between us, like a ticking time bomb ready to detonate. I felt the weight of his challenging stare, daring me to retreat, but I refused to give him an easy escape. Not after everything we'd created together. Not with our daughter's future hanging precariously in the balance. My shadow wavered on the wall as I stepped forward, speaking with quiet determination. "All right, Jack. Want out. I'll sign. But first you'll play by my rules." He cocked his head, a smirk playing at his lips. "Rules? Was this, Emily, some kind of twisted game?" I remained silent momentarily. Instead, I approached the fireplace, trailing my fingers along the mantelpiece where our family photographs stood, the three of us at the Georgia Aquarium, beaming with cotton candy-stained smiles. That was 3 summers ago, before the late-night absences, before the whispered conversations I'd pretended not to notice. I faced him again, my pulse racing beneath a mask of composure. Call it whatever you like. 2 conditions. That's my price. Jack shifted uncomfortably, uncrossing his arms as his confident facade cracked ever so slightly. Well, were these conditions? I inhaled deeply, letting the tension build in the silence between us. First, we shield Lily from this. She has her crucial end-of-term examination next week, and I won't let her academic performance suffer because her father decided to abandon us for someone else. You'll maintain appearances, smile, embrace her, act as if everything's perfectly normal. In her world, we remain the ideal family unit. Understood? His jaw clenched visibly, but he conceded with a nod. Agreed. I could sense his discomfort. Deception had never been his forte, but he wouldn't contest anything involving Lily. Not at this stage. I advanced closer, my slippered feet making no sound on the hardwood flooring, and invaded his personal space just enough to make him uncomfortable. Second condition, for the next 7 days, each night, you'll carry me up to our bedroom. Just like that evening on Tybee Beach, when you proposed and promised I was your everything. A deafening silence descended. Jack's smug expression dissolved, replaced by a flash of something between bewilderment and trepidation. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, regarding me as if I'd lost my sanity. Carry you? What's the point of that, Emily? You think recreating some romantic memory will salvage this situation? His voice carried a defensive edge now, but I remained steadfast, maintaining eye contact until the silence felt suffocating. Perhaps it won't change anything, I responded finally, my voice gentle but resolute. Maybe it's purely for my benefit. One final fragment of us before you depart. Or perhaps, Jack, it's an opportunity to remind you exactly what you're discarding along with those papers. Your decision. He reclined, dragging his hand across his face, and momentarily, I glimpsed the Jack I once knew, the playful soul who chased me through ocean waves, laughing freely. Then that version vanished, buried beneath his current incarnation. Fine, he conceded gruffly. 7 days. I'll carry you. Lily stays in the dark. Then you sign, and we're finished. Deal. I nodded, though my thoughts were whirling. This wasn't merely an agreement. It was a calculated risk, a precarious path over an unfathomable abyss. I couldn't predict if he'd break, if any emotions would surface, or if I was simply postponing the inevitable. But there was another factor at play, an undisclosed truth, a growing darkness in my chest that I'd been concealing for weeks. And it was intensifying with each passing day. Jack rose abruptly, snatching his jacket from the armrest. I'll take the couch tonight, he announced, deliberately avoiding my gaze. Your experiment starts tomorrow. I observed silently as he strode to the hall closet, retrieving a blanket with practiced indifference, as if this were merely another temporary disagreement we'd resolve by sunrise. Yet as I ascended the stairs, each wooden step protesting beneath my weight, I couldn't dispel the nagging sensation that I'd ignited something dangerous, like striking a match in a room saturated with propane. 7 days. That's all I had to either reclaim his heart or learn to release it forever. The inaugural evening of our arrangement descended stealthily, like a shadow at dusk. I positioned myself at the staircase's base, my palms damp against the smooth banister, aware of the television's soft drone that Jack had left running downstairs. Throughout the day, he'd maintained his distance, his footfalls echoing heavily as he meandered between the kitchen and garage, busying himself with unnecessary repairs. Now, as the wall clock inched past 9, I knew his avoidance strategy had run its course. Jack, I called out, my voice reverberating through our home. It's time. He materialized in the doorframe, backlit by the kitchen's warm glow, a beer bottle loosely gripped in his hand. Wordlessly, he placed the bottle on the counter and approached, his boots scraping against the floor. Let's just do this, he mumbled, eyeing the staircase as if it concealed some hidden menace. I moved closer, near enough to detect the subtle scent of his cedar cologne, and raised my arms slightly. After a moment's pause, he lifted me, his hold secure but detached, like handling an unfamiliar burden. As we began our ascent, I nestled my head against his shoulder briefly, murmuring, "Remember that tiny coffee shop near UGA? With its crooked signage?" I stumbled on the curb outside, scraped my knee badly, and you carry me 3 blocks to that pharmacy on Lumpkin Street. Jack's muscles tensed, his breathing faltering momentarily. "Yeah," he responded gruffly, "I remember. You wouldn't stop complaining about your shoe." I smiled in the darkness, sensing the memory flickering between us like exposed wiring. Upon reaching the landing, he set me down outside our bedroom and turned away without comment. But I caught it, that momentary vulnerability in his expression, a hairline fracture in his defensive wall. By the third night, the atmosphere in the house had transformed, electrified with an unnamed tension. Jack stood waiting, his frame propped against the wall, hands tucked in his pockets, the television's usual glow conspicuously absent. I approached him, my bare feet making no sound against the wooden floor, and he lifted me without hesitation. Midway up the stairs, I tilted my head and whispered, "Remember our wedding night? We escaped the reception, racing through Piedmont Park in the downpour. You carried me across those puddles, declaring me your queen." His pace slowed, his grip tightening instinctively. "I remember," he murmured, his tone gentler than before. "Your white dress was drenched. You looked like some ethereal angel caught in the rain." I released a soft laugh, and for just a moment, I glimpsed a genuine smile, not the artificial one he'd been wearing for Lily's benefit. The fifth evening marked a shift, transforming my calculated game into something more precarious, like walking a tightrope suspended over an endless void. Earlier, Lily had convinced us to watch a movie together, an animated feature about talking canines, and we'd sat like a proper family again, her small form nestled between us, her giggles filling the room. Now, as Jack carried me upward, her laughter still echoed in my mind. I placed my palm against his chest, feeling his heartbeat through the fabric, and whispered, "Do you remember Lily's birth?" That fierce storm hit just as we reached Emory Hospital. I was screaming, panic-stricken, and you carried me through the deluge from the parking lot, swearing everything would be fine. His features softened then, in a way I hadn't witnessed in ages. I was terrified too, he confessed, barely audible. "But you showed such incredible strength." He set me down gently, lingering momentarily, his fingers grazing mine before withdrawing. Lily's voice shattered the moment, floating down the hallway from her bedroom. "Daddy's carrying Mommy again," she exclaimed excitedly, peering out with an infectious smile. Jack's chuckle rumbled deep in his chest as he called back, "Time for sleep, kiddo." I watched his descent, noting the subtle changes. His shoulders carried less tension, his footsteps lighter than before. I leaned against the wall, struggling to catch my breath as an acute pain blossomed in my chest. This wasn't merely emotional turmoil. It was physical, tangible, a dark secret I'd conceal beneath these shared memories. 5 nights completed, 2 remaining, and I could sense time slipping away, not just for Jack's decision, but for something more ominous I couldn't escape. Every night, I was uncovering new layers of our shared history, but in doing so, I was also exposing parts of myself I'd carefully hidden away. What would his reaction be when the full truth emerged? What would become of me if this delicate balance shattered? The house wrapped us in its quiet embrace, yet it felt sentient, observing, anticipating the inevitable tempest brewing beneath our facade. The 7th night crept in like twilight, seeping through closed curtains. I stood motionless in the living room, my palms pressed against the cool leather of our sofa, watching the dying sunlight paint golden streaks through the Venetian blinds. Jack's behavior had shifted noticeably today, more subdued, his gaze lingering on me during unguarded moments. The atmosphere felt charged, electric, reminiscent of those moments before thunder rolls across the Georgia skyline. 6 nights spent excavating the man he once was, and now, with only 1 night remaining, I sense a transformation. But I too was changing, evolving in ways I hadn't anticipated. Jack emerged from the kitchen, his familiar flannel shirt pushed up to his elbows, clutching a glass of water instead of his customary beer. He halted upon seeing me, placing the glass on the counter with a gentle sound that seemed to echo in the silence. "Emily," he spoke, his voice carrying a roughness yet maintaining its steadiness. "There's something I need to tell you." My insides coiled into a frozen knot as I straightened my posture. He made no move toward the stairs, didn't attempt to lift me. Instead, he traversed the room, stopping just beyond my reach, his hands flexing rhythmically as if resisting an invisible force. "I visited Sarah today," he began, and my heart plummeted. the rooms seeming to tilt beneath me. Sarah, the other woman, who had infiltrated our lives like an intangible adversary I couldn't confront. I steeled myself for the inevitable he was choosing her, after all my efforts, after everything I'd invested in these 7 days. But then he stepped closer, his eyes capturing mine, and said, "I ended it. I can't continue this, Em. My heart still belongs to you." His words struck me like lightning, leaving me breathless. I studied his expression, searching for deception, but found only raw, unfiltered honesty I hadn't witnessed in years. I collapsed onto the couch, my knees buckling beneath me, and motioned for him to join. He settled beside me, close enough that his familiar presence enveloped me, the contours of his body a haunting reminder of our shared past. "Jack," I whispered, my voice barely audible in the stillness. "There's something I need to confess as well." His brow furrowed as he leaned closer, and I drew in an unsteady breath, the pain in my chest intensifying with each heartbeat. "I've been harboring a secret. Not what you might suspect. No other relationship. No calculated vengeance. It's far graver." I hesitated, my fingers intertwining anxiously in my lap, before forcing myself to continue. "I have lung cancer, Jack. Stage 4. The diagnosis came months ago. The doctors say I have weeks, possibly less." The crushing weight of silence descended upon us. Jack's expression crumbled, his hands desperately seeking mine, clutching them as if he could anchor me to this world, prevent my inevitable departure. "No," he rasped, shaking his head in denial. "No, that can't be true. You're healthy, Em. You've been fine." I gently extracted my hands, placing them on his shoulders, steadying us both. "I've concealed it well," I explained softly. "The persistent cough I blamed on seasonal allergies, my weight loss, wasn't stress. It's real. And these 7 days? I wanted more than just reconciliation. I needed Lily to remember you differently, not as the father who abandoned us. I wanted her to have that memory, Jack, after I'm gone." He shattered then, a heart-wrenching sob escaping as he enveloped me in his embrace, burying his face in my hair. "I'm so sorry," he repeated endlessly, his tears dampening my sweater. I held him tightly, absorbing his strength, his remorse, the love I thought had vanished. Yet even as I cradled him, an icy dread crept through me. I hadn't revealed everything, especially not about this morning's appointment, where the doctor's trembling voice had confirmed the cancer's accelerated spread. Days, not weeks. That was my reality now, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him, not yet. Jack pulled away, wiping his tear-stained face with trembling fingers. "I failed you, Em. I let everything, the job, the stress, all of it, tear us apart. I should have fought harder earlier." I reached out, squeezing his arm gently as my own vision blurred with unshed tears. "Just promise you'll be there for Lily now. She's going to need you more than ever." He nodded firmly, but I caught the flicker of fear in his eyes, the gradual comprehension of what lay ahead. When I tried to stand, my legs wavered, and he steadied me instantly, his hands finding their familiar place at my waist. "Let's go upstairs," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "One last time." As he carried me up, memories seemed to pulse through the house, not just echoes of our shared past, but premonitions of the tempest approaching. I'd reclaimed his heart, but at what price? And how much longer could I maintain this facade of having time to spare? The next morning, after Jack had carried me upstairs for the final time, I awakened to raindrops pattering against the window pane. The sound was gentle, rhythmic, as if nature itself was grieving what remained unspoken. I remained motionless, my body leaden against the bedding, watching as muted light seeped through the drapes. Jack had already risen, his portion of the bed empty and cool, and I could hear him moving about downstairs, the familiar sounds of breakfast preparation, likely making Lily's favorite pancakes. It was a morning ritual I'd once considered ordinary, but now it felt like sand slipping through an hourglass. Pushing myself upright, I grimaced as the pain in my chest intensified, more acute than before. Catching sight of myself in the opposite mirror, ashen complexion, sunken cheeks, eyes bearing the weight of unspoken burdens, I confronted my reflection. For months, I'd concealed the truth from Jack, masking it behind cheerful facades and distracting narratives. But now it was forcing its way to the surface, unstoppable. I made my way to the dresser, hands quivering as I retrieved a small journal hidden beneath my winter clothes. Inside, written in my unsteady script the previous evening, were the words, "Jack, when Lily asks about me, tell her how much I loved her every moment of every day. And please forgive yourself. I already have." Time was running out. The physician's recent call haunted me. The cancer had invaded my bones, leaving me mere days. I'd intended to tell Jack everything this morning, to unveil the complete truth, but as I tucked the journal into my pocket, fear gripped me. Could he bear it? Had my silence already created an insurmountable divide? I approached the staircase, gripping the banister, each movement a struggle against my growing weakness. Downstairs, Lily perched at the breakfast table, maple syrup glistening on her chin as she watched Jack masterfully flip a pancake into the air. His eyes found mine as I appeared, his expression initially warm before shifting to concern, brows furrowing as he studied my face. Something's wrong. You look." His voice faltered as he abandoned the spatula, crossing the kitchen in swift, purposeful steps. I attempted a reassuring smile, trying to dismiss his worry, but my legs gave way beneath me, and he caught me before I could collapse completely. Lily's frightened gasp pierced the air, her utensils clattering against her plate. "Mommy!" Jack knelt beside me, his trembling fingers brushing strands of hair from my face. "Emily, please, tell me what's happening." I clutched his arm, my voice emerging as a whisper. "The time has come, Jack. I can't pretend anymore. The prognosis is worse than I let on. We're talking days, not weeks." The color drained from his face as he drew me closer, cradling me like a precious, fragile thing. "No," he breathed, "not now. Now we've just—" With failing strength, I pressed the notebook into his palm. "Save it for later. Just be here with me now." What followed became a blur of moments, sirens wailing through the downpour, hospital corridors humming with fluorescent light, Lily's face streaked with tears as she clung desperately to Jack's leg. I drifted away that evening, his voice reading my final words becoming my lullaby. "Until we're together again, my love." I'd struggled to preserve our family's unity, to protect Lily from the knowledge of her father's infidelity, but as consciousness slipped away, I wondered, had my well-intentioned silence robbed us of precious healing time? 2 weeks later, in the quaint stone chapel along Peachtree Road, Jack addressed the mourners, my letter quivering in his grasp. He'd resigned from his prestigious banking position, devoted himself to coaching Lily's softball team, investing in her future, as I'd requested. Yet the aftermath of his affair left lasting wounds, whispered judgment from the sidelines, former friends maintaining their distance. While Lily blossomed into a vibrant young woman, her laugh reminiscent of mine, Jack carried his remorse like a shadow, an ever-present companion. My decision to conceal the truth preserved our daughter's innocence, but denied him years he might have spent fighting for our reconciliation rather than running from his guilt. From this vantage point beyond life, I've learned this truth. Even well-meaning deception construct barriers that prove impossible to dismantle. Jack's betrayal fractured our bond, while my secrets held us together just long enough for farewell. Life's brevity demands we cherish what's genuine and present before time slips away forever. And so, our poignant tale draws to a close. Did this ending stir emotions you didn't expect, or did it align with your predictions? Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please show your support with a like and subscribe for more compelling narratives. Until we meet again in another story, farewell.